students. Today we are looking at Chapter 8, Lesson 5, Least Common Multiple. Students will be able to find the least common multiple of a set of numbers. All right, so I want to first start off by reminding you what the word multiple means. In math, a multiple is the product of any number by a counting number such as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. So that is a multiple. It's the product of two numbers. So for example, if I have 2 times 1, we get 2. If I have 2 times 2, we get 4. 2 times 3 equals 6. 2 times 4 equals 8, and we can keep going and going and going. Now, these products are called the multiples. And they are the multiples of 2 because we took 2 times a number, and that's what we got. Those are the multiples of 2. So you can find multiples in a times table chart. Okay, and if you have a times table chart, you probably want to get it out for today. It will be useful. So we're not only just talking about multiples of numbers today, we are finding the least common multiple of a set of numbers. So numbers have multiples in common, all right? And we are looking today for the common multiple that is the least. Now, the reason we're focusing on least common multiple and not greatest common multiple is because there's no such thing as greatest common multiple. Numbers can go on forever. I can always add one more, which means I will never be able to find a greatest common multiple because I can keep going to the next number. So when we find a common multiple, it's always going to be the least, never the greatest. All right, so let's put this into practice. The abbreviation for least common multiple is LCM, least common multiple. And let's find the least common multiple of a set of numbers. So let's find the least common multiple of 3 and 6. So what I want to think of are my multiples of 3 and my multiples of 6. And there are several ways to set this up. You can just look at a times table chart, and that will help you for a lot of the problems. But remember that on a times table chart, it extends beyond the chart. So where your paper stops, it actually continues on in the real life. So that's helpful for a lot of problems, but once we get into some larger numbers, it might not help anymore. What I like to do is make a table. And this will actually help you when you go beyond 5th grade and work on things in 6th grade called ratios, and when you work with fractions. So that's why I like to start with tables. So I'm going to put 3 and 6 into my table. And you're going to see I made this table way too long. Now I'm listing multiples of 3 and 6. So I'm skip counting, all right? I'm looking at my times table chart and I'm going down my 3s and down my 6s. I'm going to keep adding 3. I'm going to keep adding 6. And I'm looking for numbers that are in common. So I'm going to just start off by listing a few 3s and listing a few 6s. So here I go. Counting by 3s, counting by 6s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and I can keep going. And now I'm going to count by 6s. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and I could keep going. All right. So I've listed multiples of 3, multiples of 6. Now I'm looking for common multiples. I'm looking for multiples that are in both of my lists. And specifically, I'm looking for the least common multiple. Well, let's just look for some common numbers. I see both of my lists have a 6. I also see that both of my lists have a 12. And if I kept going, I would have more in common as well. But remember, our skill today is finding the least common multiple, the lowest number. So I found some common multiples, and I want the least one, which would be the first one that is in both of our lists. And that would be 6. So the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is actually one of those numbers, 6. And that's because 6 is a multiple of 3. So if I count by 3s and someone counts by 6s, we're both going to say a 6. Not at the same time, but that'll be the first number that we both say. All right, let's look at another example. I'll make this one a little more challenging. Let's find the least common multiple of 3 and 8. Okay, so now I want to look at multiples of 3 again and multiples of 8. I'm going to set up my table. I really like using a table because it's organized and because it will help you when we do work with fractions, and then in next year in 6th grade when you work with something called ratios. All right, so I'm making my table. And I'm starting off with 3 and 8. And I'm going to count by 3s and then count by 8s and look for a number that is in both of those lists. Sometimes it's the number that is in both lists is in the beginning. Sometimes you have to go a little longer. It depends on your problem. All right, so let's get started. Let's count by 3s. 3. And remember, we're just adding 3 over and over. 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I'm going to stop there for now. We might need to add more space. And I'm going to count by 8s. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. Now, if you didn't know that, you could use a times table. Okay? Now, is there anything in common yet? No. Now, 8 is larger than 3, so you can see the multiples of 8 are increasing a lot more. So I'm going to extend my multiples of 3 and see then if I can get any of these multiples of 8. Maybe I can. Maybe I have to extend and extend and extend. Here we go. Counting by 3s, continuing. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. Uh-oh, I'm out of space, but I can always extend if I need to. But do I need to extend? Is there anything in common yet? Yep, there is. I put 24 here, and I remember when I was going through my 8s that I also had a 24. So that's a common multiple of 3 and 8. Now, is it the first multiple in common? Yeah. They didn't have anything else in common until I got to 24, which means that the least common multiple of 3 and 8 is 24. All right, let's do one more and I'll let you try it. We're going to find the least common multiple of, 4 and 10. This one is one that actually tricks kids a little bit. So go ahead, set up your table. Pause the video and see if you can figure out the least common multiple of 4 and 10. All right. So when I list multiples of 4, I get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Now let's do some 10s. 10, 20. Wait a minute. I'm stopping. Why am I stopping? Because when I wrote 20 here, I remember writing a 20 up here. It came to my mind. So I'm going to stop. The first multiple in common is 20. Now, the common mistake, I told you that there's a common mistake here. A lot of people would put 40 for the answer, which 40 is a common multiple, but it's not the least common multiple. I would eventually get to 40, but 20 is first. So 20 is your answer. So always be careful. I feel like this happens a lot with 10 when you're finding a common multiple with 10. Just always be careful that you're giving me the least common multiple and not a random common multiple. All right, so just as a heads up, this skill can be used when working with fractions, and we're going to do that a little bit this chapter, but a lot next chapter when we add and subtract fractions. So this is one of those skills that you really need to know, okay? Hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye.